We are super excited to be on the line with you all today. I am Devonna Bell. I'm the Director of Sustainable Agriculture and Rural Communities at NCAT. NCAT is the National Center for Appropriate Technology. We run the ATTRA program, and I hope you all have heard of us. We've got offices all over the US, and I happily was allowed to return back to my farm in Virginia. And so I was based in Montana for this position, but got to return to my farm in Floyd County in Virginia. So I've been back here for 4 or 5 months and super excited to be working and located back on my farm in Virginia and collaborating with VABF. So I hope you all know all about ATTRA and all of the resources we have available. We have over 850 resources for farmers that includes publications, tip sheets, podcasts, videos, and our whole purpose is to serve farmers. So Brent and Lindsey and I got to talking, and we thought it would be great to have a listening session with farmers so that we can hear from you all on how you're dealing with this COVID-19 pandemic. What challenges you're facing, what opportunities are popping up, and what innovations are happening across the state. And we thought this would be a great opportunity to share peer-to-peer, farmer to farmer, and really get folks talking to each other and seeing how we can learn from each other. So I'm going to turn it over to Brent. He's going to open up talking about himself and VABF and then what they're doing on their farm.
Thanks, Devonna. Hi, everybody. I can see a handful of people here on the screen. And forgive me, those of you who know me know that I'm kind of new to this whole tech thing. So not used to having this kind of connection. We'll see how the data lasts. If I disappear, I'll call back in on the phone. But thank you, folks, the panelists that were willing to sit in. I see Michael there. Lee was having a problem with the link, I think. So hopefully I resent that to her. So hopefully she'll be able to get that. But basically, as Devonna said, we wanted to, we talked last week, and given that VABF is pretty closely tied to small diversified farmers and gardeners and homesteaders and folks who typically have a little bit more of a direct marketing chain as a part of their operation, or at least wholesale retail, depending on what they are, given the fact that a lot of these supply chains were being disrupted by the virus and then by regulatory action and closures and those kind of things, it seemed pretty obvious that we needed to find a way to be able to get folks to network with each other. Because just personally, I was getting calls from people from all over the place asking questions about what they can do, but also saying, hey, here's something we've done on our farm to sort of adapt to these changes, because they may be short-term, they may be longer-term than we realize right now. So we thought it'd be a great idea just to have folks have a place to come together. There are a lot of organizations out there that are putting out a lot of guidance and policy and protocol ideas and things like that. So we wanted to make sure that everybody was aware of what's out there and provide sort of a clearinghouse for folks to be able to talk to each other about what they're doing. So thank you all for participating. I think the way this is going to work is if you have a question, maybe you get on the chat. Is that right, Devonna? And ask your question as we go along. So one thing I'm going to do now is introduce my wife, Anna, who is co-owner of Bramble Hollow Farm, and just kind of give you an idea of some ways that we have adapted our, not only our production on the front end, but also our marketing and sort of supply chain and how we're actually getting product to customers, how we're working with a few other farms in the area. So with that, this is Anna.
Hi. I'll just give you guys a little bit of a background of how we do most of our farm orders. At our farm in Bedford County, typically we have one day a month that is an on-farm pickup day, and people come here to the farm and pick up their fresh chicken and the pork and the beef and the eggs. So instead of inviting people to come out to the farm right now, what we're doing is making home deliveries or deliveries at a particular drop site. And I know Michael can probably speak to this a little bit better, some of the things that they're doing. But you know, we're trying to limit contact as much as possible. So we're encouraging online payments through credit cards if that's possible. If it's not, then we're encouraging checks being written to the farm. And if that's not possible, then exact change or as close to exact change as possible. So we're not having to do a lot of money transactions. When I went to deliver some last week, kind of the way that I approached it was here at the farm, I pre-boxed up everybody's order, wearing a pair of disposable rubber gloves as I boxed up the orders and then put them in the vehicle. And then I went to, if I was dropping off at home, I asked people to have a cooler out on their front porch or on their sidewalk with a payment inside the cooler if they were using a check or exact change. When I got to their house, I put on a fresh set of disposable gloves, went to their cooler, opened it, retrieved the payment, put the product in the cooler, closed the cooler, put the disposable gloves in a different bag so that I wouldn't use those again, and kind of had that going on at every place that I dropped off. When people gave me payment, it went into like a reusable shopping bag so that I could leave them in there for, you know, a couple days if I wanted and not have to handle them. So this is all, you know, new to us too. I never used to have to use a separate set of gloves or a separate box for each order. So we're just trying to minimize contact. Another thing that we're doing is we're not reusing any packaging supplies. So we frequently would use reusable egg cartons, and we placed an order and we're fortunate enough to get some brand new cartons delivered in the middle of all this. So we've been using brand new egg cartons, and we'll continue to do that until at what point, you know, everybody deems it safe to go back to using the reusable cartons. So what we're doing is boxing up those usable cartons and leaving them in a cardboard box in storage, you know, for months or even years down the road. So that's kind of what we're doing here on the farm. Like I said, it's all new to us because we're not really used to having to put these protocols in place. And, you know, that's what we're looking at going forward.
That's great, Anna. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Devana. So I guess I'll go ahead and get started. So my name is Michael Grantz. My wife and I run we grow mixed vegetables as well as sourdough bread. And up until recently, about 75% of our business was at farmers markets. So our main challenge over the past couple weeks has been adapting to farmers market closures. And in the case of the Lynchburg Community Market, which is our biggest market, they've kept the market open, but for pre-order pickup only. So in that case, all of the vendors have gone inside. We're there with mostly orders that have already been made before the market starts, and then customers show up outside. The market management is there to run orders back and forth. Should I introduce myself again? So my name is Michael Grantz. My wife Arden and I run Great Day Gardens. We're a wood-fired bakery and market garden based out of Lynchburg. So I was just talking about the challenges with the farmers markets. We do a lot of our business at the Lynchburg Community Market, so we've adapted everything there to be pre-order only. And so the challenge for us is just switching has mainly been switching from on-site sales. We never really, I know a lot of farms will have pre-orders in addition to on-site sales at their weekly markets. We've always pretty much just been, we take what we have, we don't really take pre-orders. So we've been adapting to that over the past 2 weeks, and trying to find smoother ways for people to order our stuff. And it's especially challenging, I think, for our kind of farm because our product selection changes every week. We don't have a freezer full of stuff that that's our set inventory that we pull from. So that's been one of our main things we've been thinking about and finding a system is how do we make the management of inventory through an online ordering system as easy as possible. So we decided to go with a platform called WooCommerce that works through WordPress. So if you have any experience with setting up a website on WordPress, it doesn't seem too difficult to use. So we used that for the first time on Saturday. And the nice thing about WooCommerce is that you're able to manage inventory through the website. You can take payments directly through the website. So for most of our customers this weekend, they didn't have to give us cash or check or run through the square when they showed up. Their order was already packed and paid for. So in the case at the farmers market, they came and picked up. It's a WOO commerce. And so in the case of the market, the management would run orders between the vendors and the people who showed up. And then we also are doing Saturday on-farm pickup, which is unusual for us this time of year. Normally we're just at the markets on Saturdays, but we're trying to just make things as accessible as possible since we know it's unusual for our customers and everything. We're trying to make it as convenient for them. And some of our customers are located closer to the farm than they are to the farmer's market. So we've also used Google Forms for taking orders. I know that system's pretty easy to use. We've used it in the past, like around the holidays, especially for selling things for Christmas and stuff. But what we didn't like about using that is that we had to bill everybody separately from the Google form. And then we also had to rewrite the inventory every week. And with WooCommerce, you're able to upload and download spreadsheets of your orders. So we have one sort of master spreadsheet that we can edit every week and just type in the number of each product that we have, upload that onto the app on the computer. And we've had a couple issues with it. Some of the website editing is kind of weird and pages will go down for no reason. And some customers have had issues running their cards through the website. But overall, it's been a good system for us. And I like everything that Anna had to say about, minimizing contact with everybody. So we're washing our hands constantly. The space where we pack our orders has we have a hand washing sink and we have hand sanitizer on hand. So when we're packing the orders, we're really careful about that. All of our vegetables are going into plastic bags now. So even like a tiny bunch of cilantro will go into a plastic bag, so that we're handling the actual food as little as possible. And then when people come to the farm to pick up, we're set up in a garage. So the garage door's open. We bleach a shelf that we set all the orders on. So people just come in and grab their bag and go. And if they've already paid, then they don't have to touch anything aside from their order. Or if people want, we're loading their orders into the vehicles. And I saw there was somebody texted a question about WooCommerce fees. That's a good question. So we did have to pay an initial fee to set up the website. And I can't speak to the exact cost of maintaining the website. I want to say, I think it's around $100 a year. So it's kind of comparable to hosting a website through other applications that are out there that wouldn't have the e-commerce feature. The nice thing is that they don't charge any commission or ongoing fee for the actual e-commerce. So when people go on and pay through Square, the Square platform is taking out their fee of 2.5% or whatever that is. But when people are paying with a check or cash on site, then there's no extra fees taken out. And we're trying to streamline it a little bit more with our pre-existing website. So it's kind of confusing right now. We have two different websites, and we're trying to link both to each other. We have greatdaygardens.com and greatdaygardens.org, and the .com is the e-commerce website. So with us being novices to website design, we want to try to get it all onto one web page. So right now we're paying the cost to host two websites. But other than that, I would just really encourage everybody to reach out to your market management. Our managers at the Forest Farmers Market and the Lynchburg Community Market have been really supportive of everybody, and I know are really working hard to try to communicate, sort of be a go-between between customers and vendors if the vendors don't already have a way to contact their customers. And that's one thing that's been really highlighted for us, is the importance of being able to reach our customers on our own. So like the weekend before the markets actually shut down, we had an email sign up list and got about 30 or 40 email lists that we didn't have before. So that kind of made us realize that, wow, we need to be able to contact our customers, not just through the farmers market. And a lot of customers only know us by face and our names as opposed to our farm name too. So that's been kind of tricky. And so the whole experience has kind of highlighted the importance of like brand recognition and just the fact that people know our farm name, and not just our name. And yeah, I think that's all I have right now. So if we're ready for the next speaker.
Thanks so much. Lee, I think that you are able to be connected now. I've unmuted all participants just in case. And then I can go through and mute folks separately.
Can you hear me?
Yes, success.
Yay!
Woohoo!
Woo!
Hey, Lindsey.
Awesome. I couldn't change my name, but I'll be Lindsey for right now. Thank you, Lindsey. So great to hear, Michael, what you're up to. I feel like there's some overlap of what we've been doing as well. A little background, our business has kind of 4 different components to it. Well, I guess I should back up. I'm Lee O'Neill with Radical Roots Farm. We sell certified organic vegetables through plant sales in the spring. So we do 8 different sales around the state on weekends that are like 2-day sales. And then we do farmers markets, the Charlottesville City Farmers Market. And then we do wholesale to grocery stores. And then we do, we had decided to drop our CSA this season locally, and we're just doing a CSA market card in Charlottesville. So that's how we started the season, was those are the plans of what we were doing. We've done them for years. It was like a well-oiled machine. And then everything started collapsing. And so as far as plant sales, we basically watched every weekend sale get canceled one after another. And we've already produced the plants. So we have a greenhouse full of starts. And you know, so that's basically was our main concern from the get-go, is like, how are we going to move this volume of plants that we usually move in a very different way. So that you know, that's basically, we created an online store. It's about to launch in 2 days as far as our plants. So people will be able to order from our website. We've created an e-commerce page. Our website is Squarespace, and they have an e-commerce platform. And so we created that to be a way that people anywhere can order plants. Come pick them up on the farm. We'll drop them off at drop spots in Charlottesville and Harrisonburg. And then, but a lot of our sales are in like DC, Richmond. And so it'll be interesting to see how we navigate that. We haven't quite, you know, we'll have the online platform. I do think, like Michael was saying, people do know us by name, thank goodness. And so there are people who get our newsletter, and are trying to figure out ways to get the plants that they normally get. So that should launch this week. In the meantime, the local food hub created a micro market, which is in Charlottesville, and it's a drive-through farmers market. And we decided to trial it last week. The first week, there's 5 farms. Little Hat Creek will speak, who's on this call as well. And they've been one of the vendors. We're a vendor, and then there's 3 other vendors. Trying to have a diversity, and we were just trying it out. Let's see how this goes. And so the first week of that, which was last week, we used Sign Up Genius as the platform. And that worked fine. Like, we had great sales, great turnout. Our sales were comparable to Saturday market, which was amazing. And it was mostly plants. So that felt great because we had plants ready, because we normally have a plant sale in North Carolina this last weekend. So I had like tomatoes ready. It's like, what am I going to do with tomatoes? Here, I can't sell tomatoes. So that helped move volume. The site opens on Thursday late afternoon. And so this week we decided to all go to the platform Lulu's Local Food. And she's been great to work with. She helped us, like I was able to like call her and she could walk me through, but it was pretty easy. I'd recommend the site a lot from my experience. It took me a bit to get everything loaded, but once it's loaded and in there, my page can be used from other platforms. So for instance, we can use it for this local food hub micro market, but say the city market, please, hopefully, sets up their own online pickup market, they could use my page and I wouldn't have to recreate it. So I like that idea and then I can also create a hub. So I could say, I'm going to do my own market, and I'm going to grab 2 other vendors, and we're going to have a drop spot at a public place. I wouldn't have to recreate my page. So that's been great. So basically, similar to Michael, we have 2 now. We have our website, which will be launched more fully this week, and Lulu's Local Food as ways that we are doing farmers market style sales. One thing that we've done within that is, it launched on Friday. We filled up like, within 24 hours, all my greens bags had sold out. People are just really hungry, I think, for local food. So you can manage your inventory on that site. And one cool thing is that, we were able to move twice as much as we did the week before, and then we can cut it off when we're sold out or have enough capacity. So again, we'll see how that goes. And it's week number 2. And basically it's set up at a private business that has a loop. And so when the cars come in, someone puts the name of the person in the car, tapes it to the side of the car, they drive through, and at each vendor, we look at our paper, say, oh, I have something for this person. And we put it in the trunk and we wave them goodbye because they've already paid for it. So I think that model to me seems super successful thus far, and I'm hoping that we can do multiple ones. I think the challenge is that like our city market, which in my opinion should be facilitating this, isn't feeling the pressure that we feel as growers, that we have product ready to go. And so they're like, I feel like they're moving slow in my opinion. If I can create a website e-commerce store and Lulu's Local Food and all the other bajillion things I'm doing, plus farming, in this amount of time, I feel like they should be able to do that as well. But that's my opinion. Another piece is so our CSA market was changing. Everyone was gonna shop at Saturday market, and we had to put our brakes on that. We opened back up our traditional CSA. I just launched that last week, and we're already full to capacity of where we were in a normal year. So I'm anticipating that we'll grow our CSA this season. On our website, we basically just reinstated Harrisonburg and Charlottesville CSAs. And then we also are doing what's called a weekly harvest basket, where people can sign up on that site, and starting April 6th, get like a CSA basket. I'm trying to be really clear that it's going to be mostly greens. But that's a way of getting our CSA customers that normally we don't have enough diversity until June to really have a true, in my opinion, like full CSA. But people want food now. I'm going to create something that they can just buy. It's a $25 bag, and it's going to have a bag of salad mix, 2 heads of lettuce, a bunch of kale, a bunch of herbs, and whatever else I can come up with. So that's another thing we've done. If you look at our website, you can see that on the CSA page. We're again going to trial that for 1 week, see how it goes. I do think with doing these online pre-order, at this point, I'm just bagging things together. So, versus being like, you can get a head of lettuce. You can get like a customized bag, to me feels like too many details. And since I know that we can sell out of our volume at this point, I'm just making everything packaged as a bag. You order a $15 or $25 bag and you get whatever I want to put in it. There's no customization. And people seem to be loving it. Fortunately for us, we have wholesale outlets, and that's the grocery stores, and those have started as of today. We have product for them. And so those should, I think, continue as normal. We'll have that revenue stream as we always have. Those are particularly food co-ops and Whole Foods and Integral Yoga in Charlottesville. So I think grocery stores are a great thing. We already had those established. It takes a lot of work to get into the big ones as far as paperwork, but the little ones are definitely, all of them are a good outlet right now as restaurants are not open. And then, yeah, I guess that's covered everything. So plant sales, CSA, we changed and added back in. I was thankful that we already had a system in place for the CSA. So we know how to do it. It wasn't hard to get that set up in QuickBooks and add that link. And it was amazing that a lot of people are returned CSA members, but there's certainly people I don't know their name at all. I've never met them before. I guess the final, one other thing I wanted to mention to people is Waddell's Farmers Market. Dean, from what I think if you search on the internet for Waddell's produce, he's in Weir's Cave. He wanted me to mention that he does delivery. They deliver eggs around, to different stores in DC and Richmond. And he can offer his delivery service. And he does that for us. So he last year delivered for us to DC and Richmond 1 day a week. And that took the burden of us having to get product there. And we just pay him a case amount, an amount per case. But in this time, he's willing to help other people. So I just want to mention that if people wanted to reach out to him, I can maybe put in the chat box his email once I'm done talking. I think I covered everything.
That's awesome. Would you mind talking for a minute about the costs for Lulu Local Foods? That would be
Yes.
for people, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess one thing is that Local Food Hub is a nonprofit who's organizing this, and they are just trying to cover their costs graciously, which is amazing. Lulu's Local Food, Molly, excuse me, Harris, I believe has changed her fee structure to just being, I want to say it's $40 for 3 months. Like that's the only fee. There's the credit card fee. Well, I think that that's the only fee. Don't hold me to this, but my understanding is that there aren't extra fees. I would imagine there's still the credit card fees, but I'll put that in the notes too. I'll email Molly and see if I can get a response on what her actual costs are, but it's pretty minimal regardless. I mean, so far we ran everything through the site. I guess I haven't gotten paid yet for it, so I don't know. I'll add that. I wish I had more clarity, but my understanding was for 3 months it was going to be $40. I would imagine that there's also credit card fees, but.
And do you know how often you get paid? I mean, you may not know this yet because you just switched over, but as we know, we need money as soon as possible. Yes. Keep the cash flow rolling for the farm.
Right. So yeah, I don't know. I assume it's pretty quick because I know lots of people who use this platform or have used a similar platform, but I can check on that as well. These are good questions. One thing we did do with our CSA registrations is they're on our website, and we did set up we always had to use PayPal, but we set up Stripe, which is new to me, which allows you to take different credit cards. And I will say one thing that they do is the first time you use them, it takes 7 days to get paid. And then it transitions to every other day. So it's a 2-day turnaround, just like Square, or just like, maybe not. I mean, Square's like a day or two. So it comes quicker. So as far as the e-commerce and the website sales, those are really quick. But I don't know yet about Lulu's local food, though I would imagine it would be similar.
So I'm seeing some information online from Stacia and from French Price. It says Lulu's
Perfect.
Food is a program of Virginia Foundation for Agriculture, Innovation, and Rural Sustainability. Transaction fees have been waived in response to COVID-19. That's fabulous. Really amazing. Okay, that's super helpful. Okay, so thank you so much, Lee. In the meantime, why don't we go through, Lindsey, if you are handling some of the chat questions, maybe you could go through and pull some of those questions out for Michael and Lee. I have muted everybody, but the panelists can unmute yourselves. So Lindsey, you can unmute yourself.
Okay, I see a question about, for the panelists, on how much of their business comes from low-income customers using SNAP benefits or other state and local incentive funds prior to the pandemic, and if they anticipate any changes in an online environment.
That is definitely a concern for us. At Market, people can use SNAP. We've even had CSA members use SNAP to get CSA shares sort of through the market. And the answer right now is it doesn't seem, I don't know personally of a way. I know that they're trying to figure out a way. And I want to say, Stacia, I don't know if you remember Cecile, who does the, she manages the winter market in Charlottesville and she does the token system. She was trying to find a way. She was thinking that there was a place in more Southwest Virginia that was able to use them. But at this point, we don't know of a way to use the SNAP.
Yeah, and on our end, as I'm not 100% sure because I haven't been at the farmers market these past couple weeks at Lynchburg, but as far as I know, because our farmers market has decided to stay open for pre-orders, they're still able to take SNAP tokens. So through our online ordering system, if people select the option to pay when they get there, then they could do that. But my guess is that there's not as many people using it as before. I think about 5 to 10% of our sales at that market were SNAP. And just the challenges of accessing the building and stuff, my guess is that it's deterring people who would otherwise be paying it. And yeah, we've definitely not found a way to take SNAP payments ourselves as a farm. That's a great question.
I see the question here about, do we plan to continue with e-commerce long-term? And I love that question because I will say we've had our best March ever. And I'm sort of like hoping that trend can continue for April, and who knows if it will. It helps that it's really warm this March. So people are buying plants at our retail outlets way earlier than they normally would, and we are fully stocking those. But I do see the silver lining of, this is something we've talked about for years. Like, should we have e-commerce? I wanted to do spring bounty baskets for years, and every year we're too busy because there's so much going on that we don't do it. So I do see this as an opportunity to push the envelope and try new things. And hopefully we will glean a lot of really new opportunities and ways to get local food to people, and that people will really realize the value of local food. People who weren't normally shopping at the farmers market and doing these kind of things. Hopefully they'll really, more people will be looking for it. So that's my hope, is that it actually is going to create even more strength within the local farm movement.
Yeah,
and real quick.
Go ahead, Brent.
Hey, this is Brent. Just real quick, thanks, Michael. I just wanted to make everybody aware there are a lot of other platforms. I know a lot of folks have been going to Lulu's, and Molly has been pretty active in Virginia the last several years, long before this, COVID-19 issue came up. But Extension, in collaboration, I think, with USDA and VDAX and some other agencies, they have a platform called Market Maker, and French has provided, I think, some links on the chat column there on the right, but you can certainly Google that. There's a lot of good information online. So there are lots of platforms out there. In fact, I think I've seen probably 2 or 3 new ones pop up just in the last week, just through the flurry of emails that's flying around these days. So if you're interested in that, at least moving to that and adapting and providing that as an option, regardless of your size, I think there are a lot of options out there. So make sure you do some due diligence and check them out. So that's all for me.
I do think there'd be some value as a state in organizing and picking a platform. Like I feel like if we all as farmers are picking all different platforms, they're not going to it'd be nice if they could interlink and we could support one another. For instance, if I use Lulu's Local Food and Michael uses Lulu's Local Food and Heather from Little Hat Creek does, and we all come to create our own market, we can all interlink. So I don't know enough about the other sites, and maybe that's the vision of the Virginia one and that's new. I just read about it yesterday, the Virginia Market Makers, which might be great. I haven't seen it yet, but like it would be nice if we could all pick one and use it on some level, because I think there'd be strength in that. It's great to have choices, but if, it'd also be nice to be able to network a little bit more.
Thank you so much, Lee. So we have Heather on the line. Heather is from Little Hat Creek Farm. And Heather, let me know if you are able to unmute yourself and speak.
Okay.
Can you
hear? Yes. Okay, great.
Yes.
Sorry about the glare. I'm sitting in my car because I don't have enough internet at home to participate here. So my name is Heather Coiner. I'm co-owner with my husband of Little Hat Creek Farm, which like Great Day Gardens is a wood-fired bakery and ecological market farm. We grow about 1 acre of vegetables, and super ironically this year decided we were going to focus entirely on farmers markets. And like Radical Roots had decided we were going to drop our CSA. But obviously things have changed, and we are also, like all the other farms here, trying to pivot to try to reach our customers. So one thing that we have done, the first thing that we did was dust off our online store, which in the past we've used only in the wintertime to reach our customers with our baked goods. And, we really have struggled with the back-end logistics of online marketing, with making sure that we get orders right and that the orders go to the correct location, and that we don't make mistakes, because when we've used it in the past, it seemed like every week we would make a mistake, and I have felt like that really damages the trust relationship between the farm and our customers if we don't get their orders right. But here we are, we dusted it off and have added all of our garden starts and what vegetables we have to the website. And we are currently delivering to Lexington, allowing pickup on the farm, and to a local community center in Nelson County, and I'll talk more about that in a second, and to a location in Charlottesville that has always been a CSA pickup location for us. So there's that way of ordering from us, but as Lee mentioned, we are participating in the local food hub micro market as well, so we have a separate way to order through Lulu's Local Food. And so one of the main challenges of having these two platforms is that they share the farm inventory. So I have to update it pretty much every day when sales are happening to to make sure that I'm moving inventory from one to another, to make sure that, you know, if things are selling better on Lulu's, then I take inventory from our online store, and so on. So that's tricky and quite time consuming. But you know, it is this week paid off. And then we have two different spreadsheets that we need to then merge and get everything right. So that's another opportunity for error. So we're like, you know, everybody else, just trying to figure out a system to manage both the inventory and then also make sure we get the send product to the people who have paid for it. But like Lee said, you know, I'm encouraged by the response. It seems to me that people are really, that our customers are going out of their way to figure out how to buy from us and from other farms. And I've also been really encouraged by the how community organizations have really rallied to help farmers figure out a way to replace their normal retail outlets. So so the local food hub is a great example, but in closer to our farm in Nelson County, the Rockfish Valley Community Center has organized their own volunteer-run pickup location for other farms that are not that are normally would sell at the Nelson Farmers Market, but are not participating in any other sort of outlet. So that has been really popular for our customers there. And, you know, I just, you know, if you are looking for a way to, there's a lot of back-end logistics to organizing a market hub, even, you know, through a platform that works as well as Lulu's. So, you know, if there is a community center, or if there's a church, or if there's, you know, some sort of organization in your neighborhood that, you know, might be able to organize a volunteer crew to help run the administrative part of an online market, I think that, you know, would help in your particular neighborhood. Those are places that I think would really, you know, be able to muster the men and women to actually run it. So the other thing that I'll throw into the the Melee is a pretty new platform. I'm glad that French brought up the market maker, and there's obviously, you know, a lot of other platforms, but there's also one called localfood.network that is currently just a wholesale way of connecting to wholesale buyers. But for those of you who have larger volumes to move, of product to move, it might be a great way to connect with grocery stores to move product. So that's, I'll text that, localfood.network. And it's based out of Harrisonburg. So that's just another option. I agree with Lee that it would be really awesome if, you know, everybody jumped on Lulu's Local Food, and I love her idea of creating her own hubs. I'm like, maybe I should do that instead of running my online store. That way I just have one platform to manage. So I might think about doing that, Lee, thanks. But yeah, I mean, pretty much everybody right now is just doing grabbing whatever opportunity is, you know, in front of them. And I think that, you know, as this, you know, if we keep doing this for weeks or months, then, you know, we'll coalesce around, you know, things that work and, you know, drop things that don't work. So I think that over time that will happen. You just don't want to make the wrong choice right in the front. I think there's some anxiety about that, but, you know, I think it's also really important to do something, you know, and then you can, you know, use what you've learned to make other choices later on. So, so let's see, I think that's all I have to say. Everybody else has done a great job of covering a lot of the other details. I don't need to reiterate.
Yeah, thanks so much, Heather. We have Adam of River Oak Farm, and apparently he was having internet issues. You know, it's so common. You're in the car, Heather, to try to get good internet and service. And so he is going to be calling back in. Again, I will unmute all. And folks, we are also, Lindsey and I are doing our best, and Brent also, in watching the chat box. So instead of having folks wait, why don't you guys have any questions or comments you'd like? Start putting them in the chat box. I see one from Ellen, and she says, I have some concern about the idea of changing gloves for every single delivery. I don't think there are enough gloves to go around for this kind of procedure. For someone with hundreds of customers, that's a box a day. I think that's overkill. Is there a resource that farmers can look at that specifically addresses food safety procedures during this time? I personally watched a video from a preeminent doctor in New York City who puts the risk of touching a plastic bag or groceries into perspective. And she put the video link on there. CASA Future Harvest did a really great meeting with farmers and had a friend of mine and their food safety expert, Lindsey Gilmore, on. She gave a really good talk, and I believe that the link to that is made available. I think I saw somebody in the attendees from CASA. If you guys could put a link to her presentation, I think that would be super helpful for folks. I personally am wondering about the ability to simply wash hands really well in between customers, if that's a possibility, or sanitize gloves, meaning have on gloves, sanitize them, and then move to the next, because I see Ellen's point, and we're having a shortage of medical supplies right now. So anything we can do to stretch them in a healthy, safe way is best. And do any of the panelists want to speak to that?
I can speak to what we did last week, and I'm sure it's an evolving process, but we washed our hands, put on gloves, and then between customers, or every few customers, we would sanitize the gloves. So all of our orders were prepackaged. So I was basically running in the van, grabbing a flat of plants. If they got a bag of veggies, I was grabbing their bag of veggies and putting it in their trunk. And I was not touching their car at any point. So they had another volunteer who was opening the trunk. It would stay open during the whole drive-through, and then that person was closing the trunk. So the idea is that I'm not touching anything besides the flats and outside of a bag, putting them in with a sanitized glove. And so in my mind, I think that felt sufficient to me.
Yeah.
Heather, and they've popped their own trunk? You're not opening it?
Correct. Either they have popped their own if they had an automatic car, or there's a specific volunteer with gloves on doing that. Mm-hmm. So at the beginning of the drive-through, someone opens it, and at the end of the drive-through, there's a designated volunteer closing it.
So, hey Lee, how did you sanitize your gloves in between? Did you have like a bucket of bleach water?
It was like a alcohol sanitizer, like I can't think, but just, yeah, like literally like you would on your hands, but I just did it on the gloves.
Yeah, because I know that you can't buy sanitizer if you don't have it already. I looked into a recipe from the WHO for making cleaning solution, a heavy bleach cleaning solution that I think makes sense to have a bucket of, that you could just submerge your gloved hands into in between transactions. And that if you're not touching your face during any of that time, those gloves still are clean, so to speak. So I'm just concerned about wicked millions of gloves. That sounds a little bit insane.
It's really an important point. And so Lindsey, when she was giving her food safety talk, she talked about the ratio of 5 tablespoons to 1 gallon, 5 tablespoons of bleach to 1 gallon. So that, you know, that's a pretty easy solution to create. And as you said, dip your hands in. I think that's sounds like a great protocol. And as we all have talked about, this is evolving, and we'll be hearing from folks what's been working well for them as this crisis continues to evolve. Nancy says there's a local distillery in Shenandoah County making hand sanitizer. Down here in Floyd County, I was able to buy 2 hand sanitizers. Actually, I could have bought many. There was many that were made locally. 2 different spray bottles. I got a larger one and a smaller one to keep in different places. So there are some places, probably not everywhere, that's for sure. So I believe we have Adam on the line now. Adam, are you able to speak up? Okay, Lindsey, you let me know that Adam is on. But I am not hearing him.
He is on, but he's muted. Can you unmute him?
I unmuted all panelists. I'll try again. Unmute all. Okay, now let's try. And
there you go. Adam, I think we can hear you now. Can you speak up?
Adam, you may have your own computer muted. So I can mute all, but if you are muted on your end, we still won't be able to hear you. And you just hover over the microphone to hit it, and it should unmute if you're able. Well, while we work on that, let's look at some of the other inputs. So I'll take a chance, I'll take the opportunity to just send some information that we have been gathering. I'm just going to send you the whole copy paste of our message on the ATTRA site. This is the short message we have on the ATTRA site. We work nationally, so we are working with folks all around the country, which was really nice to give me a perspective of things that are happening in different areas. And as has been mentioned, the drive-through farmers markets right now are working very well in many different places. We've got videos from our farmer ag specialists and specialists that aren't farmers, that work more in the local food realm, that are going up online showing folks what's happening all around the country. And oh, it doesn't look like the links came through, so I'll try to separately give you the link to our resources page. We have a page for our resources that are pretty extensive and gathered from all over the nation. And so we want to serve you. That's our whole purpose in serving farmers. If you go to our homepage, you'll see there's a tab for COVID-19. And on that page, you'll see so many resources divided out into different subtopics of video series that we're doing, of the general information, and then resources for specific types of producers, livestock, crops, etc. Food safety resources, best practices for farmers markets, alternative marketing options, financial assistance for farmers and ranchers, etc., etc., etc. So we tried not to deluge folks with massive amounts of resources, but really distill it down. So I will give you the link in the chat box, and hopefully that helps people. Most important is just to remind you all that ATTRA is funded by Rural Development, and we are here to serve you farmers for free. So anything you need, you can call us. We'll connect you with the right farmer ag specialist. You can email us if people prefer to email, and there's even a chat box. So, okay. Adam, I'm going to try you again. Any luck? So why don't we, Lindsey, why don't we start going through the Q&A again? It looks like,
Adam is back on now.
okay, I hear you and I hear Michael.
Adam, can you speak up? Okay, Adam, you're connected. Can you speak?
Yeah, can everybody hear me?
Yeah.
Yes, yay.
Okay. I'm so sorry for my unsavviness with technology.
We're
Which
happy
has
to
been a
have you
struggle.
on. If you could introduce yourself and tell us all about what's happening with you, that'd be great, and your farm during this crisis.
Yeah, my name's Adam, and I run River Oak Farm on the Nelson County, Amherst County line. And I raise meat, so beef, poultry, pork, and my business was probably like 40% wholesale, and so that was my big hit with this whole pandemic. Can everybody still hear me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sure
Oh,
can.
it's so clear. So I'll just give you my experience. I heard a few people, and everybody's a lot more well-spoken than I am. So I'll just be quick and just give everyone my experience with how I've transitioned. So I got involved with an online company called Barn to Door, which I highly recommend. Those guys, I don't know if anybody else is using them, but it's Barn, the number 2 door, Barn to Door, and it's $69 a month, and they don't take any percent of your sales. The platform's really easy to use, and I'm focusing primarily on home deliveries. And as this thing evolves, I'm doing more drop locations as well. But the initial idea for this was for people to put a cooler on their front porch, minimal contact. They order, all sales are taking place online, and boom, drop the product in their cooler and keep moving. It's been a challenge, as a big portion of my business was wholesale, and I wasn't focusing on direct marketing other than one farmer's market, the Nelson County Farmers Market. So for years, I haven't been collecting email addresses. I haven't been focusing on that side of my business. So now I'm in this frantic mode to be in this world where everybody tries to get information from one another. So I am every day just joining this information age. So it's been a struggle, but it's really been working out well for me. The community in Nelson County especially has just really been great, and trying to support all local producers. And one thing I'm working on more, since I have this platform, is incorporating other farms to be able to sell their stuff on my site. So I think there's going to be some cool collaborations that this whole pandemic is going to force us into. And I'm sure everybody's been touching on all this stuff, but that's my experience. And if, I can take questions, or if anybody wants me to talk more, I guess I can.
Thank you, Adam. There is a question that just came in regarding what you were just talking about. So Reese says, granted, gas prices are down lately, but home delivery burns up a lot of gas, time, and wear and tear on vehicles. Is it cost effective? How much are you home delivery folks actually making when you consider the fuel and vehicle maintenance?
Yes, that's a great question. And my prices are going up every day, it seems, on this website as I consider the wear and tear. Gas prices are good right now, so that's not a big concern. I'm putting a $10 delivery charge per house, so that has the potential to be a good revenue source. But what I'm seeing is the handling, the packaging, the dealing with the online web store. It is a lot of time and energy that goes into just the actual, just making that product get to that person's door, not even thinking about the wear and tear on the vehicle and the gas prices. So I'm focusing more on trying to figure out a base price for like a handling, packaging, that sort of fee that people can swallow and still be competitive with my prices. But it's a great question, and one that I'm 3 weeks into doing this, and I'm evolving already, because that's a big concern.
Yeah, so what I've seen in many places across the country is that farmers end up doing bulk drops. So they'll have a host site, and the host site, in cases of livestock, has to have some sort of garage or freezer or window that people are picking up in terms of having things, like you said, a cooler there. And anyway, they'll have a drop site, so they're not going to each person's home, but yet one place where then the consumers are responsible for picking up their own product during that window.
Yeah.
To make it easier on you logistically and also in terms of cost.
Yeah. I think the drop sites are going to be more. I'm certainly going to try to incorporate more drop locations, and I think that's also a chance for other farms to do some collaboration together and have large drop sites, which I'm seeing a lot of. I'm sure other panelists have touched on that.
Yeah, that's great. So there's a question from Mary Jo in Harrisonburg, and thank you for putting your name on there, Mary Jo. For the markets that are doing pre-ordering and drive-through pickups, does your market clearly stated COVID-19 safety protocols that are provided to all vendors that you might share with us?
Is that a question for me?
I don't think so.
Okay.
No, Devonna, can I mention something real quick?
Of course.
I think as of maybe Thursday or Friday of last week, the Virginia Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services has actually listed a lot of those COVID-19 safety protocols in their relaxing of the prohibitions on markets. So I think, and I don't have the link in front of me here, I know back a little bit further back in the chat box, Kim Nowolny with the Beginning Farmer and Rancher Coalition had actually put a link up there. So I want to make sure that doesn't get away from us, because there's probably a link in there to the to the VDAC's regulatory policy and the safety policy. So if folks are looking for that, maybe somebody could get a link from the VDAC site and put it on the chat room so folks can go directly to that.
Yeah, so CAF, the California Alliance for Family Farmers, has some really amazing resources. And I would suspect that it's probably on their site and actually most likely linked to our NCAT site as well. So I had given you guys a link to NCAT's ATTRA COVID page. I just put it on there really quickly again. It links to organizations all around the country and the resources you're using. I don't think I can manage toggling between the both, but that likely there to help you. And then Stacia mentions that NC State has a strict letter to consumers about the Local Food Hub is using NC State documents for customers and vendors, and Local Food Hub send out a strict letter to the customers about the process as well. That's right. So I'm hearing from a lot of folks that it's actually the customers that are often not following the rules, that maybe they're just not as concerned about it. So sending out the letter to the customers is really important as well. Okay, French Price says, I would encourage all markets to check with their insurance provider to make sure the executive order does not void their liability coverage. Oh, French, that is such an important point. Thank you so much for saying that. That's so scary, actually. Okay, I'm trying, and Lindsey, you are also navigating the chat box. Maybe we could jump between each other because I'm reading through them. It's just going to take me a minute. I see something that says, but specifically for drive-through markets. Okay, so she's looking for something specific for drive-through markets. So I think that question then is really to folks online that are using their markets are doing drive-through markets. Is there a document that can be shared here?
I just linked to the VAFMA website and their farmers market protocols. I haven't looked through it enough today to see if it has the drive-through, but we do have a question for the panelists. Are we missing out on an opportunity with reaching out to some of the bigger grocery stores? They're having a hard time keeping stock, and I see them reaching out to vegetable farmers. Perhaps their fees are too high, but it would allow our particular beef, poultry, and chicken farmers to not have to develop their own clientele. Might be interesting if your ATTRA would reach out to the big guys and get a reaction from them, Giovanna.
Yeah, you know, I really feel like this is an opportunity, a huge opportunity where we can let the bigger grocery stores know that that price point that they're offering doesn't work for the smaller farmers. And if they want to keep stock in, that there's a negotiating point there. So I'll make a note of that, and see if we can have someone reach out to some, you know, there's grocery chains everywhere, but somebody look into that from my team.
Do any of our panelists have their own experiences with the larger grocery stores?
We do have some experience. We sell to Whole Foods in Charlottesville, Richmond, Short Pump, and some of the DC stores. And it would be worth, so historically the way we got in was there's a ton of paperwork. It took me a long time to get in, but once you're in, you just have to update everything. So you have to have certain insurance coverage to deliver to them. So a certain add-on onto your policy specific to Whole Foods. And you have to, like for us, being certified organic is a real value there because we're not there to tell people how we grow things. So that is really why wholesale works for us, is because we can get a little leverage point with that as far as the price point piece. But it's certainly, I think if people reach out, it can't hurt. I know that some like Produce Source, I believe the local food hub, those would be two good resources to ask if they have connections to those stores. I believe Produce Source sells to Food Lion and maybe Harris Teeter. But to sell to them, I will say you have to have GAP certification, I believe, HGAP, or just GAP certification for Produce Source partners, which are based out of Richmond, but they do wholesale to grocery stores. But it could be that things are a little different in this time where people are needing more food. So I think reaching out can't hurt, and see what people say, what response they get.
Mm-hmm. That's great. Stacia says, I feel like the most important thing for vendors is that phones cannot be touched when wearing gloves. This has come up a lot, that our phones are highly toxic and just full of germs. And so that's a really good point for us to all remember. Heather from Little Hat Creek says you have to leave the call, but feel free to contact you with questions. So she put her email on there, which is awesome. Thank you. Okay, so
Racy
Hey,
brings up,
Devonna, this is Brent again.
go ahead, Lindsay and Brent.
go ahead, Brent.
Hey, I was just going to remind everybody, I mentioned it a minute ago, but Kim Nawalny just put that link up again about the extension resources for food safety. So specifically, if you have questions about Virginia and how VDAX is regulating that, or policy, protocol, procedure, those kind of things, I think that link that Kim provided through extension would probably give you a good start. So make sure you check that out if you have questions.
Awesome. Thanks, Brent. And Michael had his hand raised, Lindsay. Do you want to go ahead or?
Yeah, I just
Hi, Michael.
wanted to bring up, I don't think we've talked about employee protocols and how people are managing workers on the farm and limiting exposure. I was just wondering, especially Lee, I know you have quite a few hands there on your farm. We only have one part-time employee here, so we've been communicating with her about making sure she's healthy, and like when we're eating lunch together, for example, we're eating outside, so she's not coming in the house as much. And I mean, with us, with one part-time employee, it's not as much of a risk, but I was wondering what the other farmers were doing with helpers.
Yeah. Folks want to jump in?
So I can speak to what we're doing. We have 6 people on staff, or apprentices that are on staff, and 3 live on the farm and 3 actually commute. And so we are, fortunately, we have GAP certification protocols in place, which we got our HGAP certification last year. And I feel like those have been really helpful because we actually already have standards as far as no phones, no touching your phones, wash your hands before you do this, this, and this. So that's been helpful. And just really trying to educate them about minimizing when they leave the farm. That's my biggest concern, is when they leave the farm, where are they going? And, you know, trying to point out the emphasis of that, and that if they do have any symptoms, that they should not come to work. So just really having those standards and reviewing them with everyone. And we did have someone who got sick, sort of not with coronavirus, but she got like a flu kind of thing. And she didn't come to work for a week, and that's what we set up. We didn't want her having a fever, being on the farm. So definitely a concern, and even a concern because Dave and I are doing deliveries, and it's amazing how people will still come into your space, your personal space, when you're trying to stand 6 feet away, doing something. So we're really trying to be strict about that on ourselves, and washing our hands and doing sanitation.
It really
is.
is.
And we aren't taking, we aren't taking volunteers right now. That's one thing that I feel like all these things are happening so rapidly that like we're changing policies day to day. But we usually have volunteers come every Tuesday, and we nix that whole process, and haven't welcomed any, no one else can come on the farm unless they're picking up a delivery of plants, in which case we bring it out to their car, put it in their trunk, and then go wash our hands.
You know, this question has also come up a lot on other forums all across the U.S. And I've heard a lot of farms talking about how they are having very strict stay-at-home procedures for their farmers or for their staff, and that they're giving paid sick leave. But I imagine that can get very expensive, especially for small farmers. And they are asking their employees to stay home with paid leave if they have any symptoms at all, or if anyone in their household has symptoms. So I think it's super awesome in terms of being careful, and I wonder how it becomes feasible when those costs could get kind of high. But I guess there isn't there, there was something going around, I saw something that was being shared around that the government is having a 2-week leave policy that can be reimbursed or paid for. And I don't know enough about that. And I'm wondering if anybody here does, because that could make a huge difference. A 2-week sick leave, is that for small businesses and small farmers to be able to utilize with their employees? Brent, you're shaking your head no? Oh, you're muted, Brent.
I'm sorry. I was shaking my head because I haven't heard that. So
Okay.
if someone knows, if someone's heard that, I know we're hearing something new out of the, federal and state levels pretty much every day. So if anybody has any current information on that, share it, please, because I haven't heard that.
Yeah, I don't know enough about it, but I did hear, it mentioned. So if anybody else knows, please pipe up in the chat box, and or if you're able to unmute yourself, unmute and speak, or raise your hand, then we can choose you. Lindsey, I know you were trying to pipe in. Was there something you wanted to say or jump into the chat?
I was just reading some of the chats, and Racy pointed out that the insurance issue is another reason to petition the governor of Virginia to make farmers markets essential and classified as grocery stores and not as restaurants as they are currently.
Yeah, and so that's something that is super critical, and I believe VABF and Virginia Farmers Market Association are going to be collaborating together to get a message out on this, just for folks to be aware. Most of our neighboring states, their governor has passed that farmers markets are essential businesses, and yet here in Virginia, we're being considered like restaurants, which is pretty shocking. Okay, so we've had some thank yous, and thank you to everyone for participating. We're so happy to have everybody online. And then we've got a comment here from Nicole. Let's see, Nicole Schumann. She's an extension agent in Goochland County. From everything I've learned regarding food safety, sanitizing or washing disposable gloves is not best practice. Okay, that's good to know. You are better off sanitizing bare hands. Reusable gloves may be sanitizable. And I wonder if an implement such as tongs could be used to lift bags by the handle. Probably best to check with the local health inspector responsible for the market. Okay, thank you for that, Nicole. We have a comment. I don't think it's from me, but it has my name on it. So 2 policy issues come up here related to the $2 trillion federal funding for COVID response. First, use some of the funding to help farmers cover sick leave for employees. Second, funding and policy to enable SNAP usage online ordering, something similar to ensure that low-income folks can still obtain fresh, affordable produce. Yep, those are really 2 awesome policy actions that I would also like to see us have some help with. VABF, I know you all deal in policy. We really don't so much at NCAT and ATTRA, so I don't know if you guys want to speak to that at all.
I really don't. I'm not that familiar with that. We have some we have some market manager groups that we work with, and we could probably reach out to them and find out what they're hearing, what's in the pipeline. But as of right now, I really don't know what the decision is going to be on that. So we'll have to get back maybe for a few.
That comes from Mark Schoenbeck.
Currently, SNAP is not available to be used online. Someone wrote earlier, Lindsey Smith with the Regional Food Systems Value Chain Coordinator in DC, said that if there's interest in a regional collaboration to address the use of SNAP and other benefits in an online environment, that they are actually discussing that now. So I'm hoping to be able to copy and paste this chat so I have everyone's contact. I think given the current environment, having the online option would be ideal.
Yeah, that would be great. And so we are coming to a close soon, but if you have any last questions or comments you'd like to make, please type them in the chat, or you can always raise your hand if you're able to. So Stacia says, one concern for drive-through markets, last week we didn't wear masks, thinking they are for medical or sick. But now I wonder if we should be wearing masks. It really is a big question that's out there. I was talking to a friend over the weekend whose partner works in a hospital, and they don't have enough masks to change between patients. So she's working these 12-hour shifts, and she's having to keep one mask on her face all day. And that was never the policy before. Their policy in the hospital was that they would change masks in between patients. So there definitely is a shortage of masks. I love French's recommendation here is I suggest finding a seamstress to make and sell masks in the market. Just have to be really careful to not touch your mask and contaminate it with your hands as well.
I've actually heard from the CDC that if you're healthy, you should not be wearing the masks, only for sick people.
That's because there's a shortage. Yeah. So, well, this has been great. We are at the end of our time. I do see there is some Q&A under our Q&A button. It says, hello, just a question. Is there a way that we can contact state offices as an organized whole to try to push for the Virginia farmers markets to be recognized as essential businesses? So yes, and Lindsey, do you want to say more about that?
Yes, Racy and I are working on a petition to the governor, who I believe is the only one who can override the current VDAX classification. So we'll be putting that out and hopefully get a good response. Anyone who wants to collaborate on that petition and help send it out through their networks, that would be awesome.
We especially want to reach consumers as well. We feel like the consumer voice will have a lot higher numbers and really make impacts with government officials. Somebody mentioned, Racy mentions, mask making for farmers markets could be a great 4-H project. Yeah, that's a fun idea. Okay, so any closing remarks, Brent, Lindsey?
I just wanted to say I really appreciate everybody's time. I know this is a crazy time for everybody, and in our discussions last week, trying to find a time that fits most farmers' schedules, as well as now folks whose schedule is upended by the whole COVID issue. We really appreciate you taking the time to do this. Lee, you're not even supposed to still be on this call. You said you were going to be gone. So thank you for sticking around. Thanks, Michael and Devonna, Lindsey, and everybody else participated. Heather, we really appreciate it, and we look forward to having more of these. As Lindsey just mentioned, VABF is going to be putting out some information together with the Farmers Market Association regarding the protocols that have been set by VDAX, as well as the essential versus non-essential. We're going to be working on that this week. So if you're interested, please reach out to us if you have information. If you're a market manager, Maureen, I'm hoping Maureen's on here from LEAP in Roanoke. If you guys have information, I know Virginia farmers markets are varied, are really varied across the board. You know, some very small, some very large, and a lot of different working parts. So the market managers, in my opinion, really need to be providing input for this kind of thing, because they're the ones that are seeing these day to day on the ground. I've talked to a few market managers, and I realized that procedurally there are some issues with trying to control the public, you know, folks that you typically can't really control, but now we're in a situation where we need to provide some kind of control. So for those of you that are doing that day to day and week to week, please reach out to myself or Lindsey, Racy with VABF. Let us know how you're doing that. Let us know what you like or what you don't like, what you think is a good idea, what you think is a bad idea, so we can coordinate that as a you know, one big effort to take to the state level. So we want to make sure we get this right. So we really need input from everybody that's involved. So thank you for your time, and please reach out to us and let us know how it affects you. Thanks, Devana.
Thanks to everybody. We really appreciate your time, all of the work that you do. We know that this actually has become a huge opportunity for local farmers. We see in times of crisis how critical our food supply is. It is absolutely a national security issue, and our farmers are so important to us. So thank you, and we wish you all the best of health, and we'll hopefully talk to you again soon.